It's 1989, and you're on vacation in New South Wales, Australia. You and your boyfriend set off backpacking, something you've done many times before. You hitch a ride, just like always. But this time is different. He doesn't take you to the next town like the others. No, he keeps driving, back to his home. There, he ties you and your boyfriend up, rapes you, and then stabs your boyfriend multiple times, severing his spinal cord and paralyzing him. Once you're dead, he buries your bodies in the Belanglo State Forest. At least now, you can rest in peace, right? Wrong. He returns regularly, smoking his cigarettes and leaving the butts beside your shallow grave. He is Ivan Milat, the backpacker killer. On December 29, 1989, Deborah Everest and James Gibson, two Australians from Melbourne, disappeared. They were known to socialize with the hippie community and were backpacking around the country when they hitched a ride with the wrong man. In October 1993, a local man discovered a human skull and femur in a remote area of the Belanglo State Forest. When he returned with police, two bodies were uncovered and later identified as Everest and Gibson. Despite severe decomposition, one detail stood out. Gibson's zipper was undone, yet the top button of his pants was still fastened. Gibson had been stabbed 8 times. One of the stab wounds severed his spine, leaving him paralyzed. Others punctured his lungs and heart. Everest had been beaten savagely, her jaw broken. Her skull fractured in 2 places, and knife marks were found on her forehead. She had also been stabbed in the back. Strangely, Gibson's backpack and camera had been discovered long before, in the northern Sydney suburbs, over 120 kilometers, 75 miles, from where his body was found. On January 20, 1991, 20-year-old Simone Schmidl was hitchhiking south from Liverpool, near Sydney. Originally from Germany, she was an experienced traveler. But this time, she too accepted a ride from the wrong man. Her remains were found on November 1, 1993, in Belanglo State Forest. Her body was partially dressed, her shirt and bra pushed up around her neck, a pair of green shorts resting on her pelvis, the ties undone. Near her body were several personal items, jewelry, coins, and pieces of clothing belonging to another missing backpacker, Anya Habshid. Simone had been stabbed 8 times. 2 wounds had severed her spine. Others punctured vital organs like her heart and lungs. On December 26, 1991, German backpackers Anya Habshid and her boyfriend Gabor Norgebauer checked out of a hostel in King's Cross. They planned to travel to Adelaide and then on to Darwin. They were never seen alive again. On November 3, 1993, their bodies were found in shallow graves just 50 meters apart. Norgebauer had been strangled and stabbed multiple times, front and back, with particular attention to the spinal area, which had been severed completely. His pants were unzipped, but, like Gibson, the top button remained fastened. Anya had been decapitated. Despite extensive searches, her head was never recovered. On April 18, 1992, British backpackers Joanne Walters and Caroline Clark were last seen in King's Cross. They had planned to travel through southern Australia. They never completed their journey. On September 19, 1992, 2 orienteers discovered a body in Belanglo. Police later found a second body 30 meters away. They were identified as Joanne Walters and Caroline Clark. Joanne was found face down, her hands behind her back, covered by a frame of sticks and ferns. Her shirt and bra were pushed up, her pants and underwear were missing. While the condition of her body made confirmation difficult, she had likely been sexually assaulted. She had sustained 14 stab wounds, 5 of which had cut her spinal cord. 2 ribs had been severed, and no defensive wounds were present, suggesting she was paralyzed and completely under the killer's control. The wounds were consistent with a Bowie knife. Caroline's body was found with her arms stretched above her head, tied with a red cloth. 10 bullet holes were found in her skull, but only 4 exit wounds. 4 bullets were recovered from inside her head. Her face and jaw were shattered. A reenactment suggested the shots came from different directions, but the casing pattern implied the killer had repositioned her body repeatedly, using her as target practice. She also had a single stab wound to the upper back, similar to Joanne. Despite the horror of what had been discovered, police did not initially confirm a serial killer. But the brutal nature of the crimes, and the similarities, couldn't be ignored. Investigators created a profile. The killer was male, in his 30s, familiar with the forest, and driven by control and sadism. They began cross-referencing vehicle registrations, gun licenses, gym memberships, and police records, narrowing 230 suspects down to 32. Then came the call that changed everything. Paul Onions, a British backpacker, called from the UK. He had been in Australia on January 25, 1990, and accepted a ride from a man named Bill just outside Sydney. During the drive, Bill pulled out ropes and a gun. Paul managed to escape and reported the attack to police. Years later, his memory would be vital. A witness, Joanne Berry, backed Paul's account. Another woman, the girlfriend of one of Ivan Milat's co-workers, reported her suspicions about Milat. Investigators learned that Milat had a criminal record and had once been charged with abducting 2 women and raping one, charges that were later dropped. He worked on a road crew between Sydney and Melbourne and was absent on the day Paul Onions was attacked. He also owned property near Belanglo and had sold his Nissan Patrol shortly after Clark and Walters were discovered. Paul Onions flew back to Australia and positively identified Ivan Milat as his would-be attacker. On May 22, 1994, Milat was arrested. Police searched his home and found weapons matching those used in the murders, along with personal items belonging to the victims. Milat was found guilty of the murders of 7 backpackers and sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. But to this day, many believe there may be more victims, never found, never named.